and also in person, and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the Council's public policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meetings protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who also receive invites to the meeting. Okay, so item 1 is apologies and substitutions and declarations of Richard Paul.
Convener, we have apologies from Councillor Armstrong to be substituted by Councillor Crowther. Apologies from Councillor McCluskey, substituted by Councillor Brennan. And an apology from Councillor Maguire, substituted by Councillor Cassidy. So we'll move to a roll call. Can the following councillors please indicate if they're present at the meeting? Councillor Brennan.
Present at the meeting.
Councillor Cassidy.
Present remotely.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Law.
Present remotely.
Councillor McCabe.
Present Chair.
Councillor McCormick.
Present remotely.
Definitely is.
Councillor McVeigh. Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Wilson.
Present in the chamber.
Are there any declarations of interest?
No. Okay, thank you, colleagues, and welcome to those of you who are substituting. So, item 2 on the agenda is revenue budget outturn 2023-24, and Angela's going to speak to that report. Angela.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, this is a revenue budget outturn report for 23-24. It's based on the unaudited outturn at this point, so it is subject to any changes potentially identified during the annual audit process. The main points to highlight from it is that there is an overspend of 545,000 against the revenue budget for 23-24. This has been is 0.036% of the budget, and it's been a movement of 50,000 less than what was projected at the June report that went to committee for period 11. The main things I would highlight is section 1.3. There is a summary of the main areas that have caused the overspend, with any partly offsetting underspends there. Also like to note that this excludes the health and social care figures. Also at section 3.4 of the report, I would highlight we've included a table which shows the performance against the budget for the last 5 years, and you can see in 23-24 this is the first year that we've actually had an overspend against the revenue budget. There's 2 appendices with the report. Appendix 1, which gives us a bit more detail against it at a committee level for the service committees. We can see the period 11 and the actual outturn against the period 11 that was projected. There's some notes there also which includes any of the material variances that are over £50,000. The second appendix that we have attached to it takes a sample of those material variances over 50,000 and tries to give a little bit more detail of why the variance has happened, and also where we have taken decisions through the budget process, how that has been impacted on these outturns. What I would also like to highlight is there is a report on the agenda later which deals with the the overspend that's happened for 23-24 since the budget decisions that we have taken, and also as part of the service committee reports for 24-25, the first report that goes to the service committees will include a bit more detail for each of those variances for that directorate. Happy to try and take any questions.
Thank you, Angela. Any questions or comments, colleagues? Yes.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm conscious of the fact that it's not in the report. These will form updates to the relevant service committees. So I wasn't planning to go into this in detail. I just, well, probably just to, also to remind us about how this overspend has been captured within the budget process. I know there's a paper coming on later. I'm just more about the last year's budget this time, the obviously overspend of about £500,000. Has that already been taken into consideration, as my recollection is, with respect to the unallocated reserves?
Angela?
Yeah, I'm happy for Alan to help out. And some of the through you, convener, some of the areas will have been covered in the 24-25 budget process. So where there has been underspends that we've identified, for example, in the contingency, we have taken a saving towards that. And also some of the pressures have been addressed through the budget process as well. The items that have arisen since we've made those budget decisions in 24-25 still have to be addressed, and that is part of the report that Alan has on the agenda for later. I'm happy if Alan wants to maybe expand on that.
Hello?
Yeah, as Angela says, a number of these matters were factored into the 24-26 budget, and extra money was set aside for things like parking income and the like, and we factored in the pay award for 23-24, which we had 250,000 of an unfunded element last year, which contributed to the overspend. That was addressed as part of the budget, but there are other things, and it's just symptomatic, and put the slate on as well, of the budget's getting tighter and tighter. In the past, there's been underspends, there's been still, albeit small, but some flexibility in budgets, that when there have been overspends, these underspends have been able to cancel it. But as time goes on, every single year we're chipping away at those any areas of flexibility in the budget to try and minimise the impact on frontline services, so there's less resilience to deal with those things. And that's what happened in the last year, because the report says. I'm actually struggling to recall the last time the council overspent. I can go back to 2012 and get it actually, but before then, it would need a lot of work and analysis to get it in the same format as this. But I can't recall, certainly since prior, it would be prior to 2010, since the council last overspent. So that's just symptomatic of the pressures that the council is under.
Thank you. Just to, sorry.
Yeah.
So my understanding is this doesn't have any, the numbers are such that this doesn't have any impact on the unmarked earmarked reserves. That's still the same, 4.4 million.
Yes, when the council closed, we took the overspend into account and we arrived at 4.4 million of unallocated reserves. But the report later on in the agenda says if that continues, we will fall below the minimum recommended level.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions or comments, Paul? Yes,
Yeah, thank you, convener. A comment and then a question for Angela. This morning at SPT we discussed the school transport. Everybody's got a problem with ASN transport. Everybody has. It's going through the roof everywhere. Secondly, with regard to the mileage for school transport, 1 mile for primary, 2 miles for secondary, we are now outliers. Virtually all of the 11 councils in the west of Scotland have moved to 2 miles and 3 miles. I shall write with that information to the members of the budget working group with my comments. And a question, Angela. The ASN there's a £504,000 overspend. I know some of that is from schools. What was the ASN budget for 23-24, please?
Angela?
Sorry, convener, I'll just have a look at that just now. I might not have it on the report for me. If I haven't, I will certainly get that for you.
That would be good enough.
Yes. Okay, because the ASN placements was 32% overspent, but the transport part of it was 20% overspent on the budget. I will confirm the budget for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Thanks, Chair. Page 9 on page 2 on education wages. I looked at the overspend on the kitchen contract repairs. It's 460,000, which seems extremely high. I'm just wondering, Alan, yourself, or maybe Rick can say, there appears to be a mismatch between facilities management, case income and early years case expenditure, budget reporting. Just looking for more detail on that, because this seems to me the high for repair and maintenance type of issue.
Thank you, Javier. The narrative there is probably, I can understand this, probably a bit misleading. Kitchen repairs have very little to do with this. This was due to the fact that it was linked to the early years, and particularly ring-fenced elements of the grant of the early years. Within my team, there had been a mismatch between one part of the team who work out the expenditure and the other part of the team that work out the income. And it was only in the final monitoring report that it became apparent that one team had been assuming more income than they were going to get, and one team had been assuming less expenditure than they actually got, and that led to this big gap. I think the reassurance that was given verbally at the Education Communities Committee back in May was that it was expected this to have very limited impact in future years going forward, because it was picked up as part of the budget process that these budgets had been aligned incorrectly, so we were able to that realignment with no impact on the bottom line. So this was a one-off thing, but we're still doing some analysis on that, and the plan is to provide an update to the Education Communities Committee in the first reporting cycle.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? No, can we agree with recommendations?
Agree.
Thank you. That takes us on to item 3, capital programme outcome 2023-2024. Matt is going to speak about the report.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, similar to Angela's rush report, this is the outcome report for 2023-24 for capital, and again, this is based on the unaudited accounts, so it could change. It's unlikely, but it could change. So just to run quickly through the report, the section 1.4, we're showing the net advancement for the year, which is 2.9%. Officers think this is a good performance capital, and it seems to be a return to sort of more the norm after a few years of some volatility in the capital programme you'll be aware of. Further on in section 3, we highlight some of this, the areas of advancement, and you can see from that the environment, regen and education and communities has shown quite significant advancement, and that's offset by slippage in HSCP. I'd just like to highlight that although it looks bad for HSCP, they really only have, well, 2 projects, but 1 main project in there, so 1 project has slipped. So it's a big number, it's kind of a big percentage, but it's 1 project in there. Further on is 3.5 to 3.7, we flag some of the ongoing challenges we've had. You're aware of some of the global issues over the last few years have impacted capital, and we flag them in there, and also how we are trying to address these. And further on the report, we look at the various appendices. I'll just run through quickly what they are. So Appendix 1 is the 5-year advancement slippage in there. And again, you can see the volatility. There's a couple of sort of high levels in there of advancement and slippage. But we'll go back to 6.7% for the 5-year average, which is lower, sort of target 10%. And again, we believe we're sort of back in a more normal footing now, hopefully going forward. Appendix 2 gives it by committee and by reason, and again, we've also highlighted in section 3 the main committees in there. And Appendix 3 is really by individual project, or material movements project. There's a fair bit of detail in there, so I won't go through that at the moment, but I'm happy to take any questions on that. And finally, Appendix 4 is by period, and this is going back to the days when we had the tendency not to flag slippage till too late in the year. You can see from the appendix now we're better at flags some of that early on and getting that out there, and then we also can then address it and turn some of that slippage hopefully into advancement. So that's the main areas of the report. Again, I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any questions, colleagues? No? Okay, can we agree with recommendation? Agree. Yeah. Okay, that takes us on to item 4, Treasury Management Annual Report 2023-2024. Tom,
Thank you. Thank you, Convener. This is the final 3 annual finance papers on today's agenda. This report covers the Treasury performance and highlights the 2024 performance, which 2024 was actually, after many, many years of real stability with low interest rates, was actually a year quite high volatility, with interest rates increasing significantly above what was predicted. and this caused knock-on impacts with some of the market loans being called in by the lenders, which then meant that the council had to either borrow or use its cash reserves, its investments, to substitute for that funding, and that had a knock-on impact to loans, charges, internal resources, interest, etc. Now, obviously, in the last month, there has been the first reduction in interest rates for some period of time. Indications are interest rates may reduce further in the medium term. It's not going to go down as quickly as it went up. That's always the way with interest rates, I'm afraid. And my team factored in what we can and our best estimates into future projections of loans, charges, internal resources, interest as well. What the report will show is that some of the performance statistics this year are more extreme than other years, but the good news is the council stayed within its parameters all the way through the year. And the report also highlights that during the year, the council approved a reprofiling of the service concession repayments, and that generated £40 million.
What's that, Alan? What's the service concession?
PPP. So the PPP, we have financial flexibilities that we granted to council that they wanted. So look at the PPP repayment profile, take it over a longer period, which matched the life of the asset, because of existing schools PPP. The school life is 30 years, but our normal new build school life is 45 years. So we're spreading it over a longer period. That generated a one-off saving of about £14 million and ongoing revenue savings, all factored into the 23-24 budget. So there was a lot happened this year. And so, as I say, some of the statistics in here will look a bit strange, but I'm happy to answer any questions and hopefully provide as much clarity as I can.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Any questions, member? Disappointing.
Please,
Please with the line council property type of question that is not.
That's true. I'm not going to ask you a council property type of question, and apologies if it's a little bit left. Alan, you're talking about the PPP and are reprofiling it. But my understanding is we get significant monies from the Scottish Government as a result of the PPP. Has that profile changed?
Through you probably know. So the modelling that I did with the team was that we get £6 million a year from the Scottish Government, which is a fixed cash sum, which we get for 30 years. That will end, I'm going to say, 2041, 2042. And after that, we will get no support, so the council will pick up the full cost. But by 2041, sorry, 2042, we will have repaid the PPP provider. So all we're left with is paying the debt side of things. So that's factored in to show us value for money under the net present value model.
I'm remembering that now. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Justin?
Yes, thank you, convener. I just a quick question, for clarification. Section 3.9, page 25. It talks about we've under borrowed against the capital financing requirement by 65.951 million. I just wondered what the rationale is for using reserves rather than borrowing in these circumstances. If you could explain that, thank you.
Good. Paul?
Thank you. Yes, this comes down to the sort of the judgments that I and my team take, and I think, you know, if you try and apply your own maybe personal thought process or your own personal finances process here, when interest rates are high, you don't want to borrow, you want to use your own savings. Well, that's effectively what the council is doing, because if I was borrowing that 65 million at 5%, that would be a massive amount of increased cost. I am not, if there's no requirement for me to borrow, I won't borrow at this point in time. And there will be an increase in borrowing, which the strategy that was approved indicates. I think it's about £40 million of the borrowing over the next few years. as interest rates begin to drop. But at the moment, I'm holding off borrowing, waiting to see how much interest rates will go down before I borrow again. As I say, I always apply my own personal financial, what would I do if it was my money type approach to this sort of thing. Being under borrowed is not a bad thing. One thing you can't be is over borrowed. You don't want to be. It just means we've got debt more than the amount of physical external borrowing that we've got. We fund that through the cash flow and the balances that we've got.
Okay, you happy with that,
Awesome.
Christine?
Thank you, yeah, thanks.
Okay, any other questions, colleagues? No, okay, can we agree on recommendation? Great. Thank you. Right, that takes us on to item 5, which is your separate paper for making 4/26 budget update on.
Thank you, and thank members for the forbearance in getting this on the amount of days before the meeting, but it was important that we had the most up-to-date information and also got a chance to discuss it through the strategic leaders forums as well. So this report highlights, and Angela's alluded to this, pressures on the 24-25 budget arising from the pay award, the proposed pay award, the achievement of employee turnover projections and specific service-related pressures, some of which emanate from 23-24, but other ones are emerging ones which have been managed in the bottom line previously, but now the flexibility that the directors have to manage these things on the bottom line is reducing as savings kick in. So the report is seeking approval for the chief executive to carry out voluntary severance, targeted voluntary severance clause to inform proposals that the CMT will develop and thereafter report to elected members, because the important thing is that these pressures are recurring and none are evidently recurring, that we need to have recurring solutions. So whilst elected members approve the 24-26 budget, they were also going to have to confirm the 25-26 budget in February or March 2025, and that will include the council tax being confirmed, but will involve looking at potential savings. Obviously, by the time members take a final decision, they will know what the settlement will be for 25-26 from the Scottish Government, which will be informed on any budget announcement from the new UK government as well. So my plan would be to provide regular updates to this committee on how things are going and where appropriate go to the council for approval as well once we get further information. I'll try and send questions.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Any questions, colleagues, or comments? Comment, or vote there?
I think, just for checking, I'm just going to consider what we've done before and several occasions. It was some items for planning for redundancy. Is that where we're going again?
Please welcome here. The CMT tomorrow, each direction has been given a target and asked people not to go to the savings that we previously went to. There may well be some crossover, but the elected members to be reassured that we're only going to target. And we have a meeting with the unions on Thursday and we'll discuss the areas that we're targeting, and it'll be for members to decide if we need to blend the vote.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Kavina. Just when you brought it up there, Alan, in terms of the council tax, and just remembering obviously the discussions and decisions that we made here in this committee a few months ago, and we had a different opinion from other groups and took things to a vote, etc. Or I can't remember if we got to a vote, if we just read the room. But something that was said was, do it here, do it now, because otherwise we are delaying things with people in Everclyde, and I'm just aware that nothing else has happened to people in Everclyde, so I'm just wondering what is actually going to happen in terms of the actual change in the finances for the council tax, and I don't think we delayed anything, so I'm just wondering what's actually happening with that.
So do you come in, is this in terms of the 25-26 council tax?
Well, no, 24-25.
For 24-25 loans of council tax, all the credits have been processed. There was the major exercise and there was wash-up run done about 3 weeks ago, which picked up others, so there's no more credits to be processed. And we're collecting the council tax warrants have been done, etc., etc. And the next stage will be agreeing the 25-26 council tax. And that will be done by the Inverclyde Council as part of the budget, which is where the Bandy council tax for the forthcoming year is agreed.
Can I just double check, is that absolutely going through, because I've still got people contacting me about council tax?
Oh, sorry. Do you come in? If there are any people who felt they were due, remember there was a snapshot done at the end of April, then there was another wash up done in July. So that's done now. We don't know, we're not doing this on a rolling basis throughout the year, so people, it's highlighted, people moved during the year, they wouldn't get a credit at that point in time. It was just a one-off snapshot. That was what was agreed with Scottish Government officials. And so that exercise was done. I think there have been some individuals who are on council tax reduction scheme who've been saying, where's my credit? But because the credit doesn't apply to them, because the amount of council tax they pay is fixed according to their income, that's why they haven't got a credit. And I've dealt with some inquiries, but very small numbers of inquiries around that. But if there are specifics, please.
Can I come to you? Yes, thank you.
Chris?
Oh, sorry. Forgot to ask. Put my light on. My question is related to the employee turnover savings. Obviously, we've got an assumption of a level of churn in the workforce, etc. And in one respect, it's bad because we've got less churn, but in other regard, it's actually quite good that we've got employees wanting to stay on. I'm just trying to get an idea about the quantum of the difference in personnel. So, obviously, 3 million would equate approximately to X amount of employees. I'm just wondering what that equation is.
Well, crudely, you're looking at something, and when we get back, we'll get decimal points in the right place. You're looking at under 100 employees full time. Because the average salary of the council is probably now just over 30,000. And 100 employees, that would be £3 million. Yeah, so it is something that the CMT are aware of. In the last 2 or 3 years, there have been other one-off items, particularly like strike savings, which have contributed to the turnover savings. Hopefully that won't happen this year, and so we know that's going to put more pressure, and after which the labour market is settling down a bit now. COVID was the highly disruptive factor in terms of being able to attract people, etc. But what we're seeing is across many parts of the council, things are settling down. We still have our recruitment difficulties, as Mona will tell you, in certain disciplines, particularly on the professional side. But the CMT are acutely aware of the need to manage turnover to make sure that we try to get the target that has been set.
So in terms of managing that, what specifically has been done to manage that?
For yourself, Convener, each of the directorates has a process for agreeing vacancies, and they're discussing at the directorate about the necessity to fill some of the vacancies that they've got, and they're also comparing that to their turnover target, and so it's being monitored very closely for both Kate and Stuart.
So there are judgment calls being made that some vacancies it's essential to fill in as quickly as possible, and other vacancies, well, there will be an impact in terms of service delivery. The balance has to be struck between the financial consequences that, I suppose, filling the vacancies and not filling the vacancies. So some vacancies will be delayed, whereas others essentially can't be delayed.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, any other questions? I mean, obviously this report does present a challenging picture for us, and I don't think we're unique from any other council or any other public sector organisation in the country. And we are going to have to face challenging decisions during this financial year and the run up to the review of the 25-26 budget, and thereafter, I'm sure, as well. I mean, Alan, just in terms, I suppose, about the budget sort of outlook, we've obviously set a 2-year budget, provisional 2-year budget. And in the past, we've, I suppose, looked at whether we should set a rolling 2-year budget or a 1-year budget. Obviously, some councils will say 3-year budgets, which probably is wishful thinking, I think, in some of the part. What's your view in terms of when we come to February, March next year, as to whether we should look at simply reviewing and resetting the 25-26 budget, or whether we should look at a longer term budget?
This time last year, I put the report forward seeking committee's views on a 2-year budget process that was supported, and that's what we progressed. I've not put the same report forward this time on the basis that we agreed it was a 2-year process and this year would be a light touch. And despite today's report, the exercise that the CMT is currently doing, which will be brought back to this committee and the council, is far lighter touch than the usual. And I think this goes back to Tommy's question about is it going to be that big savings with large areas of trawls and all that? That is not the CMT's intention. So unless your committee advised me otherwise, I'm going on the basis that you're getting a 25-26 budget in February, and then you'll start potentially, the new UK government has talked about giving multi-year settlements. Then you would look at a multi-year process for 26, 27, 27, 28, which would be the remaining life of this council. So we'd have two years, maybe this time next year, you'd be agreeing that sort of process. But that's why I haven't proposed it, because I think the general view I was getting, trade unions, elected members, CMT, is it would be good to have a lighter year if we agreed a 2-year budget in February 2024, which is what we did.
And it's fair to have that certainty.
Yes.
We're not going to get that certainty to set a 2-year budget or 3-year budget next year.
Yeah, and then it's a case of going through, we should need to be starting these big savings exercises in the next month or so, with all the noise and effort that has at this point in time. My thought at this point in time would be focus on 25-26 and addressing the new pressures, and then dust ourselves down and see what 26-27 holds.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, any other questions or comments, colleagues? Okay, can we have new recommendations? Right, that takes us on to item 6. Allocation of funding for the project to celebrate the 250th anniversary of Glasgow. Thank you for that. Ruth, I think it's going to speak for that.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So given the historical context outlined in paragraph 3.1, this is asking for approval from PNR for £40,000 from the Common Good Fund to celebrate a number of events linked to the 250th anniversary of Port Glasgow becoming a borough.
Always very succinct there. I thought Stuart was presenting to me. Oh, I've got to bring in the chairperson for Glasgow Regeneration Forum.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, Stephen. I think it's. I hope that this is meets universal approval. I think it's something that's very keen from the Centre Regeneration Forum that we mark the 25th anniversary. There's also a local group campaign as well to look at events we can do. So it's great that the council's able to earmark this money. But I've also, I suppose, that I'm just wondering how we'll decide how we spend this money and how we'll go about identifying the projects, and whether or not officers have any ideas about how they would see us doing that.
Okay,
at this point in time.
Ruth?
Yes, through you, convener. Yes, we've got some ideas in the background, but we want to share those with the community, the schools, and to work with the people themselves to make sure that what we think would be suitable projects would match what they would want to do as well. We've got some ideas, but we want to sense check those with the community once we've got the money agreed.
I mean, we've obviously got the Comet Festival group who are involved in that, and I would certainly see the Comet Festival being part of this particular year as well. We've got the regeneration forum with representation from certainly one of the community councils.
Yeah.
We've got another community council that's up and running as well. And I think the schools would be a good vehicle. So I think it's absolutely, there needs to be genuine consultation with the community to come up with the events rather than just the council coming up with events.
And it's great to see that it goes throughout the opportunity to do it in the schools. I think yourself, conveners, has mentioned a number of times the last what they call it, the last celebration of Port Glasgow's.
Yeah, that's when Port Glasgow ceased to exist.
Yes. Unfortunately, it was a bit.
Sadly, we were swallowed up by our big neighbour in Greenock, and we had a festival to mark that. No, absolutely. I think it should be a real community year.
So last time was a good way. Let's hope it's a nice celebration this time.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe we'll get to mark the opening of the oldest building in Port Glasgow, the King George building.
Hopefully.
In the course of 2025.
And if you remember, I just noticed that one of the items was that when the Port Glasgow Improvement Act was enabled in 1775, it defined the borough's municipal responsibilities and its authority to raise duty. Obviously, we just had a paper there discussing the issues that faces the local, as a local authority now, and how we can raise monies to pay for services. So it'd be great to have this ability to be devolved again. So hopefully we can make representations slightly in jest to the new UK government to see if there's an opportunity to devolve that kind of responsibility back to local authorities.
Okay, any other?
Port Glasgow ever rebel, Chris, any time?
Did you rebel? Well, let's not mention the 1820 things, what they call the 1820 Scottish Radical Wars. David Politics not go there down that route.
The Capitol riot may have been part of that rebellion.
Nothing to do with riot.
I don't know about that. Okay, right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Kirsty.
Thank you, convener. I must apologise. I'm not sure if I would need to declare an interest for this item number, but I'm currently working through Historic Scotland to make Newark part of the celebrations for this. I don't think it's got any sort of effect on the paper that's in front of us or anything, but just to make you aware of that publicly, so I'm talking to myself. And I just wanted to say that I very much welcome this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all transpires.
Thanks for that, Kirsten. I think the castle certainly should very much be part of the year of celebrations as well. So I very much appreciate that offer to engage. Okay, any other comments? No, can we agree with recommendations? Okay, thank you for that. And we'll take the on to our final paper, which is the corporate self-assessment of better power performance, and Mona, to tweet that.
Thank you, convener. Following a recommendation in the 2023 annual audit report, a self-assessment best value has been carried out. We work with Improvement Service on a checklist through the cross-service survey, and we also have the workshop with reps for services. And those outputs have informed the report which is available on Appendix 1 today. It covers the 7 best value themes, our evaluation, key learning, and next steps for improvement. How we're planning to take this forward is we propose to publish the report on our website. We will deliver against the improvement plan, which is section 3 of the appendix, and it will be incorporated within 6 monthly best value reporting activities. Happy to take questions from you.
Thanks, Mona. Elizabeth.
Thanks, Camilla. It's a really good baseline for moving forward with these measures. And obviously we've got the percentage response of the people who were involved in the methodology that's there, kind of outlines who that would be. Do we have a number of participants? Because obviously that will change potentially if we change the number of people who were forming that cohort, then it would change the percentage response, which could then let us think things were better or worse. And actually part of what had happened was the number had changed. So I'm just wondering if we've got the number to kind of really give us the solid sense of that baseline.
Well,
Thank you, Convener. I don't have the numbers to hand, but I can tell you the survey went out to partnership and council team leaders, service managers and ECMT. So quite a good range of people. And then with 32 reps at the workshop.
Okay.
I'm happy to follow with actual numbers if that's helpful.
I think it is, because again, if we are using that as a baseline moving forward, then you could, as I say, get percentage changes that are down to a change in the number in the cohort rather than a change in perception or performance.
okay. Well, any other comments, Kevin?
Yeah, can I go to big page 18? Strengthen employee communication and engagement. And I noticed that the lead owner, the chief executive, my question for you, Louise, is you're extremely good at communicating with the group leaders who are within this room. I think you're excellent at that. How do you intend to increase awareness of wider projects, initiatives being delivered by the council and extending that to all our employees?
Please.
Through yourself, and thank you very much, Councillor Wilson, for the question. As you will be aware, we introduced a corporate induction session where all new members of the council come in and have an induction with myself and the directors. It gives us an opportunity to talk about the council's plan and get some feedback from them actually about their experience of being with the council. I'm currently in the process of developing a newsletter which I'm putting out with. I'll have the right number 5 because I know, and it will also have a number of the things that I've undertaken across the summer play schemes, and some engagement with some of our staff and some of the learning in relation to that. And the directors are all, and myself are all doing a kind of, I would say back to floor, but it's really not that. We're all going out and engaging with the staff on a fairly frequent basis on all the frontline services to make sure that we're getting an informal sense for people about how to see things are. And I'll constantly review the communication. And obviously we have the staff survey, which we'll be doing again next year. And I hope that we'll see an improvement in relation to people understanding and feeling ownership in relation to the council plan.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions, comments? Chris?
Thank you, Stephen. Just with respect to the sustainable development, obviously that covers sustainable economic and social development as well as environmental. But looking at the key learning, it seems to be clear that the learning aspects are concentrated on the environmental aspects of this sustainable development. I'm just wondering, is that a correct reading of the 60%?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, so we do have a range, well, that's page 14, isn't it? So we do have a range of bullet points there under that broad heading sustainable development. And I recognise a number of bullet points do relate, I suppose, to the net zero strategy, etc. And we have tried to include some of the wider projects, community projects in there as well as examples. To be honest, in terms of limited space, obviously we couldn't be exhaustive before. But these were the things that came through in terms of awareness from the survey, as well as feedback from the CMT and the workshop that was held.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? No, can I agree recommendation?
Great.
Okay, thank you very much for attending the presentation, colleagues.